What you're about to see is not a documentary on the Navy or on basic training. It's basic training as seen and experienced by the individual. When one dons military uniform for the first time, the very first event one is confronted with is basic training, which follows like night follows day. And because the changing lifestyle is fairly dramatic, often the first time away from home, possibly shortly out of school, confronted with mean-looking instructors, having one's hair cut short, it can be quite unnerving, and more for some than for others. However, this is a very crucial phase in the young man's development. It lays the foundation for his future career in the Navy, and at the end of basic training we have a more mature, a physically stronger, more disciplined, well-rounded off young man who is not only able to fend for himself but can function as part of a team. He is now ready for the specialized phase of his training in the Navy. However, this is only the beginning. There's still much more ahead of him. Vir die nasionale dienspligtige lê daar ten minste 18 maande nog voor hom. Daar's nog baie om te doen en om te leer. Hoe hy vorentoe sal presteer is grootliks afhanklik van sy houding teenoor die vloot en teenoor militêre diensplig. As hy positief is, sal die weke en die maande vinnig verbygaan. As hy negatief is, sal hy swaar kry. Soos ek in die begin gesê het, is hierdie maar die eerste stap vorentoe. Ek wil vir al die dienspligtiges, vir al die mense onder basiese opleiding, dan ook sterkte toewens in die toekoms. Dankie.
We arrived here in Saldanha for our basic training, and everybody came from all over the country. Some of the guys came from Pretoria and Johannesburg. They came by train. As we came up the hill riding through Saldanha, we saw the gates where the pioneers stood, and then we had been in sort of still in civil life until then, and then when we saw the gates, we knew this is where it ends. You know, this is where we start our national service.
Since 1939, the base at Saldanha has provided a home for the instruction of signalers, seaward defense personnel, Air Force men, soldiers, swans and sailors alike. The names given to the base over the years have been many and varied. From Naval Gymnasium to SAS Dromedaris. In 1955, the unit was given its present name, SAS Saldanha. Saldanha itself was mistakenly named by a Portuguese navigator who thought he had discovered the bay in 1503, naming it Aqueda de Saldanha, watering place of Saldanha. Since the naming of the bay by that mistaken navigator some 485 years ago, Saldanha has grown from merely a watering hole to a multi-million rand agricultural, fishing and ore export industry. The thousands of permanent force recruits and national servicemen that have passed through SAS Saldanha have added to that history. And still today, recruits have that sense of pride by association with the history and traditions associated with SAS Saldanha.
And then we rode into the actual base, and our instructors were there waiting for us, and they all just looked so important. And we found out the buses, and then they just started shouting at us and telling us where to go and what to do, and it was just overwhelming. We just, all of a sudden, everybody was just telling us things to do, and we just had to react, and we didn't understand some of the things, and it was so confusing. And the GR was there, and he was calling out our names, and when he called out our name, we had to give him our call-up instructions. First we had to say, yes, GR, and then we had to give him our call-up instructions, and some of the guys didn't say yes, or they didn't say yes loud enough, and then the GR made them stand right at the end of the parade ground, which is about 80 meters away, and they had to stand there shouting yes, 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 all the time. This just carried on, and it was quite funny, but you couldn't laugh because then otherwise you'll get shouted at.
Yes, forward! Yes, forward! Yes, forward! Yes, forward! Yes, forward! Yes, forward! Yes, forward!
Okay, we got taken to our dormitories by our ABs, and we just found a bed. Some of us next to our baddies, some of us we didn't know anyone in the dorms. We went to get our kit then, just our overalls, our trommels, our blankets, and our sheets. And we had to stand in a long line outside the place where we got our stuff from. And then we had to carry our trommels all the way back to our dormitories. After about 2 days here, we were running around in overalls and tackies. We went to go get our medical, and our instructors couldn't really chase us around or anything before our medicals because they didn't know which guys were fit and which guys weren't. So we all lined up outside the canteen, and we went in the door, and we lay on the bed, and the doctor gave us, checked our blood pressure, checked our ears, our eyesight was checked, and then we went to the dentist. He checked our teeth, and then we had to go for our injections. And the two nurses were there, and we just got an injection in each arm, and we had to fill in some admin, and then we were given little white cards with our names on and our medical categories. And the guys who were G1, K1, N1, that's like the top medical category. And as we walked out the door, we went straight to the barber, and there the hair was cut. And that was the worst, because some guys had long hair and they just sat there, and there's a mirror in front of you, and you just watch your hair getting cut away. And your hair was the last like remnants of your civvy life. You know, your civvy clothes, you weren't wearing them anymore, and your hair was the last thing. And it was just all cut and was so short. And that whole day guys were just feeling their hair all the time because it just wasn't there anymore. And as we came out of the barber, our instructors were waiting for us, and they had a look on the back of our overall to see what medical classification we were. And if we were G1, then we had to run. And we got our flying licenses, as they called it. And we just had to fly. It wasn't running, you just had to fly. And everywhere, we just had to run to buildings and back and around the parade ground, and you didn't even really have to do anything wrong. They just saw you, they made you run. And all the G3s were standing in the squad, and they had to like lift their arms up and like wiggle their fingers because they weren't allowed to run, so they had to do something. All the G1s were just running around, and if you saw an instructor, you just ran the other way because you didn't want him to catch you. And they made us stand at attention, and they made us sit, and as soon as we sat, we had to stand again because we didn't sit fast enough. And then we had to sit, and then we had to stand, and this just carried on the whole day. And we just thought, oh no, you know, is the rest of basics going to be like this, because this is the worst.
When you answer me like I'm speaking to you, have got.
Yes, I will see him.
I can't hear you.
Yes, I will see him.
That building, away you go. You better fly. It's not quick enough. Keep doubling on the place. On the upper deck, as of now, you don't walk. Have got. Have got.
Yes, I will see him.
Can't hear you.
Yes, I will see him.
Can't hear you.
Yes, I will see him.
When you go past anyone with rank, you drop your arms to your side and you strike him. Have got.
Yes, I will see him.
Around the ankle, away you go.
After about the first week, we went down to Slops to get our kit, as we'd been in overalls the whole time, and it was time to change. We got there, and then one by one we started going from the one end of Slops right to the starting point. We first had to fit out shirts and that, and then we got a trolley. And we started, it was like Checkers or one of those places, but picking stuff up over the counter. And they started getting our sizes, and everything was divided into sections for different items of kit. And as we went down the counter, they gave us the different items of kit. Starting with shirts and pants and jackets and things, and ending up with the boots. Then we packed all our gear, which there was a considerable amount of it, into balsack, that's what they called it, and we had to load this up onto our shoulders. We couldn't believe our eyes. We had to walk all the way back. The base seemed extremely far away. But with the help of our PO Ruben, we managed to psych ourselves up for the approximately 3-kilometer walk back to the base. It wasn't an easy walk, especially since we weren't used to this. What we didn't realize is that in future we would regard this as a very petty form of exercise. But for the first time we thought, well, this is quite heavy and everything, and this is what basically is all about.
Any rating on joining the Navy, whether he's in the permanent force or a national serviceman, is required to do basic training. In military terms, we talk about MTR1, or military training for ratings. For this, they come to Naval Base Saldanha, and it's normally 12 weeks. The first 2 weeks is an induction phase, whereby we give them their uniforms, do the administration and medicals, introduce them to the unit, and generally prepare them for the next 10 weeks. The 10 weeks that follow is the basic training phase, and during this phase we have 4 basic aims. The first aim is to introduce the rating to the military environment. This means that we are taking him from his home life and the things that he is used to at home and introducing him to an entirely new way of life. The second aim is to introduce the man to military discipline. This is something that he has to learn in order to be a successful member of the team. The third aim is to impart to the man certain knowledge and skills to prepare him for further functional training, so that when he leaves this unit, he can go on with his functional training and become a useful member of the Navy. The fourth aim is to instill into the man a sense of loyalty to the nation, South Africa, to the Defence Force, and to the Navy. This intake, the February 1989 intake, was a very successful intake in that we achieved all the 4 aims that we laid down. The men tried hard, they put everything into it, and the results that were achieved were commendable.
The first time we actually went to the parade ground to do parade work, we were in overalls and we wore tackies, and none of us could really march properly. And some guys still stamped their feet like the army guys, and they had got chased around the parade ground for that. And our PO, who was then a leading seaman Liebenberg, he drilled us and he taught us well, because some of the ABs, if their class made a mistake, then he chased them around the parade ground. But our PO, he just showed us again and again, taught us. He understood that we hadn't marched before. We still got chased around the parade ground now and then, just to keep us from becoming slack. And we had to do maneuvers over and over and over again until we got it right.
Advance! About! Turn! 1, 2, 3, 1! You're getting there. Shoulders back. Don't tilt forward. I want your shoulders back.
Our PO was PO Huben, and able seaman was AB Genis. At first they appeared as if they were going to be very strict with us, make us do lots of impossible things. AB Genis said he was more in favor of cooperation rather than force. Pierre Huben, I rate as the best instructor of the base. He really stuck his neck out for us. Wherever possible, he helped us out, and he was always a person you could go to for help or anything that you wanted. He was there to help us out, and he always did his best for us. So whenever it came to doing anything for him, we also tried to put in our best for him as well.
Finger away from the trigger at all times. If I ever catch you with the finger near the trigger, I'm going to break your finger off. Understand? Yes, sir. Take your body locking, lever, break your rifle, like so.
We learnt about the FN, or commonly known as the R1 to most peoples. We went out onto the volleyball court this particular day to try and have a break from the classrooms. It's a lot more interesting to go and sit outside than be cooped up in the classroom. The FN was taught to us in the classroom firstly, and we went out where we learned practically how to strip the weapon, field strip it that is, and to put it back together, after which we had competitions on how to strip the weapon and to put it back together again. This was a lot of fun for most people, as they'd never done such things before. The lecture was held by Able Seaman Becker, the class leader of the class instructor of Delvish 1. Able Seaman himself He's a very thoughtful person in his ways of teaching people. If a person has got a problem, he's more than willing to help them. He also spends a lot of time with his class, asking questions, seeing if they have any problems. Abel Seaman Becker himself is a person that is well admired by most of his class members because of what he has done for his class.
For our basic training we had to do subjects, study subjects, and one of them was musketry. So that day we went down to the volleyball courts and our instructor, leading seaman Redden, he taught us how to field strip the rifle and put it back together. And he showed this to us a few times and we sort of got the hang of it. And then he divided us into groups. And we had to field strip this rifle and put it back together as fast as we could, and the team to win got points. And it was actually quite a rave that day, because whoever won, or if we made a mistake, we owed, we'd have to buy the leading seaman a Coke or something. And by the end of the day, we owed him about 48 Cokes and crates eventually.
Well, after 4:15 in the afternoon, when secure is piped, everybody goes back to their dormitories and very tired, and they're very restless at that time because of all the work that we've been doing through the day. And the only thing they want to do then is just relax. We wait for supper, which is at 6 o'clock, and after supper, we come back to the dormitories and we start preparing for cleaning up. It all starts very slowly. I mean, it's a very, very long process if you think about it, because we start around about 6, 7 o'clock, and we go right through until about 10:30, 11.
And yeah, we found these guys from Johannesburg, Durban, East London, PE. They're from all over South Africa. And it's interesting to communicate with these guys. You know, it was difficult in the beginning, like we didn't know how to start the ball rolling, you know. But slowly, as we went along, and we all went through the same punishments here, punishments and enjoyments. We all shared the same things. And slowly we got to feel comfortable with each other, even though there is a lack of privacy, but that's a very little concern, you know, when your main concern is to finish what you have started, that is basics.
En dan ook kry jy 'n kans om 'n boeke uit te haal, pen uit te haal, 'n brief te skryf, of 'n nota te maak, of iemand te gaan skakel, of as jy na musiek wil luister, of jy wil 'n bietjie dans, jy voel 'n bietjie om snaaks te wees, en jy rond te hardloop, die hulle dom, die het mekaar te hardloop, dat gee jou die moed om weer verder voort te gaan. Net dat jy die kans het om 'n bietjie iets van jezelf te wees, 'n bietjie by jou eie, om 'n gedagte van jou eie te hê. Dan moet jy ook in die tyd wat jy nou 'n bietjie tyd het om in die ronde te speel, dat jy ook kans kry om dan jou laaste van jou klere reg te maak. Jy sorg dat die uniform mooi skoon is, die skoene moet blank, het moet so blank, mense moet nie glo dat dit skoene is nie. En dan moet jy ook sorg dat alles passes is, dat moet paraat wees. Je moet die volgende dag moet doen in je kast kijken en dan sê jy, oh nee, die kast was nog nooit opgemaakt geweest, dat is baie mooi. Dus moet het ook nooit weer opmaken.
And some people go and have a shower first, and they get ready and they get dressed, while others are busy sorting out their personal things like polishing their boots, brassoing their buckles, and just generally getting ready, and with their personal stuff. And then when the other people come back, the rest of them would go and shower. It's not a planned thing, it just sort of like happens. And then, you know, once we've started finishing up on our personal stuff, it's around about 8:30. And then rounds comes along, security rounds, and we all have to be ready for security rounds. And there's not much we can do in that time, because we have to be waiting for the officer of the day to come in and check the security and all that stuff. So what we do most of that time is we sit down and we read our précis and we learn for the exams as much as we could, which wasn't very easy under the circumstances we are under.
The spirit of the dormitory basically is how the music gets put on, and we talk about the day's happenings, who's been messed around for the day, and how this one has been chased around and that one has been chased around, and the way the guys made mistakes in the squad, while drilling. All this get talked about at night, and we have a good old laugh, and sort of laughing is quite a good medicine. It eases the tension. It takes away that feeling of depression you have during the day, being shoved around this way and that way.
We take out the polish, lift everything off the floors, put it on the beds, and start waxing the floors. This could take quite a while. In the beginning, we took very long to do this because we didn't really have a method of doing it. We were just, starting from one end of the room and polishing through with like 4 guys. And eventually we decided that that's taking too long. We should just try it. Each guy does his own little section. So that's what we started doing, and it worked very well because it took 5 minutes and it was still very nice.
Coming together and working as a team is one of the aims of basics, and our dormitory realized this at a very early stage and developed a very good team spirit within the dormitory. This was partly due, I think, to the fact that we had an AB who was very tough on us, and if we were to survive, we would have to stick together and face him in numbers, and definitely not have anybody in the group who was not prepared to stick with the group in the group's decision. So at a very early stage, the group became very close and very strong-willed in their ways, and friendships from the start grew quite quickly. We've been very lucky in our dormitory. We haven't had any serious misunderstandings or anything develop into any nasty situations, and everybody has learned to live with everybody else and has adapted quite quickly, I would say. Towards the end of basics, things started changing very slightly because people became a lot less reserved than they were at the beginning, and the dormitory changed slightly. It started to split up into groups that were for and against certain things, but never at any stage did it come to total disagreement where the whole group of us would not stick together. Right at the end of basics, obviously everybody is getting more and more excited because they're getting their various musterings, and they are slowly beginning to see what their future holds for them in the Navy. And also they're coming to realize that the passing out parade is soon, and very soon basics will be over. So everybody is so happy that the end is near that they couldn't really worry about any problems that might exist, or any differences that there might be between people. Differences are forgotten, and everybody is just living for that day of the passing out parade.
We had 2 guys celebrating their birthday, one of them being Corbett Peters celebrating his 21st. We covered both these guys in shaving cream, as we couldn't very well toss them into the water as being tradition, and finding out that it was their birthdays. They both looked like they'd just been dipped in a nice cake. On their chest we wrote their girlfriends' names, and hearts were drawn all over them, just to show their girlfriends that they do love them still. The friendship in that dormitory that night was unbelievable. The guys just came together. A couple of days later we bought the guys a cake to celebrate for their birthdays. The friendship in the dormitory is one of the most important things during basics. If you haven't got friends in the dormitory, you're lost. Because if you've got a problem, you turn to your friend before you turn to your peer or your instructor. Eventually, if a friend can't give you any help, you will naturally go to your instructor. But friendship in a dormitory plays a very important role.
And then as for the band, which I belong to, we had a good team spirit going. People were really fantastic. We didn't have any arguments, any fights. Everybody pulled their weight. We were directly under the GI, and he's a pretty tough man. He said yay or nay to whatever we had to do, and when he gave a command, we really had to see to it that the thing was fulfilled. We had about 5 guitarists, which formed part of our entertainment band in the evenings. The rest of the time we had a full band that was entertaining the whole Saldanha Navy. We did a couple of tours. One of them was Simon's Town for Naval Day. For the first week with the band was pretty nerve-wracking, trying to find people who could play various instruments. Eventually we got the whole band together. It consisted of about 8 to 9 trumpeters, 3 to 4 lead drummers, a bass drummer, 2 clarinet players, a cymbalist, and the rest of us were passengers. This means that the people that followed the band didn't actually partake in the actual naval band, they were the entertainment band. Our evenings were pretty entertaining. We had sing-alongs and people helped each other write music to play the next day. Although we didn't really get time for our uniforms as such, it was a pretty tough schedule, but a lot of fun, it really was. Even when we went away on weekends, we'd go home, collect music, come back on Monday or so and compile it and try and form an entertainment program for various functions.
Sailing week was one of the better weeks we had during basics. It was more relaxing than any of the other weeks because we spent all of our time down at the yacht club. The first couple of days were spent listening to lectures, getting taught how to rig the boats, how to sail them, the general theory in sailing. We were then shown the boats that we were going to sail and shown exactly how to rig them, what to do, what not to do, and we were then split up into small groups. We sailed 3 different types of boats: cutters, Saldanhas and bosuns.
Because we were such a large number, one class is about 90 of us altogether. Some of the guys had to go out pulling in the morning while others went sailing in Saldanhas and others sailing in cutters. And then the other guys came back in the afternoon and they didn't swap around. They'd go sailing while the people who went sailing in the morning would go pulling. Nobody really enjoyed the pulling. A lot of guys came back with blisters on their hands and everything from the using of the oars. If of course people went out, they went out sailing in the cutters, which are 32 foot long, and they take 13 people on board. They went out sailing, and when it came time for them to sail back, the wind actually died down, and much to their disgust they had to take out the oars again and row back because they were expecting to sail back. And when they got back again, it's all blisters on the hands and tired shoulders and sore legs and sunburn and everything.
I must say, all in all, sailing the boats that week was most enjoyable. They gave us a lot of sailing time throughout the whole week. I think from Tuesday afternoon we were sailing, we sailed right through to Friday every day, so we spent a lot of time in the water. By the end of the week, most of the people were able to sail by themselves, knew basically what was going on. And given the sailing boat, I think most of them could have sailed it quite easily by themselves. And I think the general consensus was that everybody enjoyed that week the most out of basics.
Breakfast is at 6 o'clock in the morning. We go for breakfast. Those guys who manage to get first to breakfast, stay in the front of the queue, they invariably get picked to serve. And there's 800 odd guys to serve, so they got to usually wait about half an hour until the line ends before they can even eat. But the advantage of this is they're allowed to eat double meals. They can usually help themselves, like if they're serving, say, steak in the morning, then they can have 2 steaks where everybody else has to have 1 steak. The food on the average is very good. We have meat for every meal. In the morning it's usually bacon or sausage, and we have eggs, either boiled, scrambled, fried, and then there's always bread and then vegetables and that. The queue is usually, if you manage to be, say, 5 minutes late, then you stand about 10 to 15 minutes in a queue waiting for breakfast. The guys who manage to get into the queue first and don't get hauled in to serve, they eat their meals fast, like, say, 5 minutes for a meal. And they can come back and they can wait for seconds, if there's seconds left over. We all sit down in the galley. There's not enough room for everybody to sit in the galley, in the dining hall. So the guys who go in first, they actually have got to finish eating before the last few guys get into the dining hall. Otherwise there's not enough place for everybody to sit down. Lunchtime is at 12:30. Usually it's a bigger meal than breakfast. We have meat again, usually steak, liver or tongue. There's vegetables, usually mixed vegetables. There's pudding. Sometimes we have ice cream. Again, we have bread, butter, jam. We all sit down, same procedure again for lunch, and we usually finished eating lunch at about 1 o'clock. Everybody finishes. Supper time is at 6 o'clock, and there we have to go in night dress. Overall, the meals are very nice. The thing is, your mother's cooking will always be the best, and there's no comparison.
One Saturday morning we had inter-division athletics. We had all the field and track events, and those that were not taking part in any of the events were seated on stands beside the track, and we were to cheer and support divisions on. Johnson, which has all the members of the band, were there in full force with their instruments, and they were keeping a lot of us entertained with all sorts of tunes. And I think the spirit on the grandstands was very good. Everybody was trying to out-sing and out-shout everybody else, so you can imagine the noise levels at the best of times, especially when their division won something or got a high placing. I think what stood out the most that day was a pole vaulter from Bierman who broke the Saldanha record for pole vaulting. it got to a stage where with every jump he made, everybody sat in silence, wondering whether or not he was actually going to make it. He was amazing us all as to just how high he could jump. And after breaking the Saldanha record, eventually he hit the bar and it was all over. But I think it was quite amazing to everybody just how well he was doing. The rest of the day was also very exciting. There were also some very good results in some of the field events. I couldn't give you any facts and figures, my memory's not that good. But I just remember it being quite an exciting day, quite an enjoyable day with a very good spirit.
Elke dinsdag het ons vastbytcompetitie gehad. Soos het klaar afleef vastbyt, je mag vastbyt, want daar zou het geen genade betoon nie. Die eerste vastbytcompetitie wat ons gehad het was voor elke dom 30 ouens vanaf 6 beddens wees. Elke ou met 'n tye, 'n sandsak. So het was 5 ouens per bed gewees. Party ouens het hulle sandsakke 30 kg so op die beddens gesit. Dan was dat, as ons miskien begin was altyd okay gewees. So in die middag miskien, dan sit altyd die ouens wat lyweeg stiek, dan begin hulle skenyf, tram te skenyf. Maar as vastbyt, dat is nie tyd vir skenyf nie, want elkeen het sy sandsak, sy tye. Baie van die ouens het blisters, klaar altyd van blisters na vastbyt. So miskien altyd besig dat wanneer toe klaar die ouens van hulle voete, hulle enkels, hulle knieë, al die troubles kon nou uit wat hulle maak hier. Het ons een vastbyt, toe kon ons die hele route voltooi het. Hulle het sommer gesê, okay, ons kan maar net die helfte doen. Maar in 'n jaar het daar baie ouens wat nog altyd, hulle kan nie bygehou het nie, hulle was onfiks gewees. Hulle is altyd teruggekom het van die vastbyt op die PT-veld. Word altyd pryse uitgedeel. En vir die Esper te koop, dat die Esper te koop trofee altyd vir die division wat altyd die by mekaar bly, dagdiens division altyd maar die vasbyt die Esper de Koops gewen. Ons was baie goed, ons altyd saam gewees. Ander doms, hulle het nooit saamgewerk. Een hardloop voor, een hardloop agter. Ander ouens kom altyd met ander divisies ouens aan by die eindpunt.
I must say the class competitions were very strenuous, with especially carrying beds and tires and sandbags and so on. It does put quite a strain on your body. Although at the end of it, when you're relaxing and sitting down and drinking your Coke or whatever and talking to your friends, it's something nice to think that you just finished and completed this class competition, and you can look back on it and sort of think to yourself, you know, that wasn't so bad, whatever, I'm just dreading next week's one. And as they progressively got harder and harder, we didn't actually notice it, to tell you the truth. And the teamwork, the teamwork got better all the time. The men started working together. Better systems of taking part in these class competitions were carried out and so on, and they basically got better and better all the time. And I think it's a great idea. It promotes fitness, promotes spirit, promotes drive and ambition and determination. And it really is a great idea to have these class competitions. I must say, at first, when I first took part in them, I didn't do very well. Well, for myself, I think I could have done a lot better. But as they progressed, I could feel myself actually getting fitter, as I know a lot of the other chaps did. And I found myself in the runs and in the class competition getting better and better all the time, and I could handle the distances. And well, I really think it's something that should be continued in Navy Basics.
Wel, as ons voorberei vir inspeksies of vir bootsman nadoe, is dit redelik 'n groot storie. Ons moet redelik in die oggende vroeg opstaan, party aande laat gaan slaap. In die aande stryk ons en polish ons boots en alles. In die oggende staan ons op en fees met weerslag uit. En probeer alles so goed as moontlik regkry, want nadoe se standaarde is redelik baie hoog. Ons kan self van hom sien. Sy klere is baie goed gestryk, sy boots is altyd blink altyd en alles is altyd perfek. En hy probeer vir ons 'n goeie standaard stel en hy daag ons altyd ook uit om soos hy te lyk. Al die spesifieke oggend was sy standaarde weer eens baie hoog gestel by die inspeksie. Hy het ingekom, mens kon soms dadelik van die begin af sien dat dit op 'n afgeronde pad gaan loop en dat dit nie heeltemal vir ons so goed gaan uitwerk nie. In elk geval by die eerste persoon al het hy baie foute gekry. En te weet is dit gesommer, dit is wat gaan gebeur by almal. En op die oomblik het klomp ouens, moes sekere ouens hulle eie bootse by die venster uitgooi in verskillende rigtings. En mense buite die dormitories het ander mense by die dormitories selfs vir ons begin lag en alles. So dis nie eers baie vir ons aangenaam gewees nie. Die ouer klasleier is altyd vir hom die ergste, want hy moet agter die nadoe aanloop en al die skuld of alles aanvaar of net vat daarvoor. En op een stadium het nadoe 'n berei geneem en dit oral waar die bene is afgevee en stof so baie maklik opgetel. En die klasleier moes dit toe vir almal wys. Op die een spesifieke persoon se bed het baie soos 'n kanoe gelyk, 'n bietjie ingeval in die middel. Toe moes hy die boot roei en een van die liedjies sing. Baie van die bene was volgens sy standaarde nie goed genoeg vir hom nie. En toe moes ons Toe hy baie van die bene omgegooi, maar hy het partykeer het ook die eer aan ons toegelaat om die bene vir ons eie bene self om te gooi. Andersins het hy ook vir die klaskaptein gevra om te gooi.
At about 7:20 in the morning, all the members of the base would form up outside the dormitories and either march down or double down to the large parade ground for divisions in the morning. The different squads, they double down, march down, and they form up outside the parade ground into their divisions. Then the band forms up in front, and we slowly march on to the large parade ground in our divisions, with the band leading in front, and we all form up into our class areas. When we form up, our parade commander dress everybody. We get organized and we get time to square ourselves off and make everything look neat for inspection. When that is finished, the warrant officers, they usually inspect us to make sure our dress is correct, buckles are polished, our puttees have been clean and whitened, and everything, boots are nicely polished, and everything overall is correct about us, our dress and bearing. Once this is finished, it's about 8:05, and we have colours. This is the flag hoisting ceremony, where we hoist the national flag and naval ensign. Once the colours are finished, usually the XO or GI has something to say about what's going to happen that morning and where some of the guys are going to go, what classes to attend. And when that's finished, we then march off. Some mornings we form up again and we do a march past in front of the dais with saluting the XO or captain staying on the dais, and we form up again at the back of the parade ground.
As naval chaplains based at Naval Base Saldanha, I think we hold a very privileged position in the Navy. Not only are we ordained ministers in our own particular denominations, but here we have the privilege of working with everybody, irrespective of the man's denomination or even his belief. We deal with Jewish faith, we deal with Christians, we deal with Muslims and Hindus, and we are there to be a friend to all the men as they come in this time of basic training, which can indeed be a very, very traumatic period. We are there first and foremost to look after the man's spiritual needs, and we see to church and chapel periods, and we see where the man is or isn't in terms of his own spirituality. We're also there to see to his physical needs, and sometimes we are needed to direct a man to a particular department or to a particular branch. We may need some advice, and I think in every sense of the word we do become the man's spiritual father while he's stationed here in this base doing his basic training. When I talk about we as chaplains, I'm referring to my colleagues as well. At this particular unit, we have one English-speaking chaplain, which is me, and we have two national service Afrikaans-speaking chaplains who also come and assist. And I might add, do an admirable job, because we are dealing with so many different language groups as well. I also want to emphasize the fact that it is not our task to try and propagate or to argue the point over particular church dogmas or traditions. We are simply there to meet the man at his point of need and to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. Jesus had told them that he is the Messiah. Not so much just in words, standing up and saying, I am the Messiah. He did tell certain people. He told the Samaritan woman, she said, when the Messiah comes, then we'll know all truth. And Jesus said, I am he.
Parents' Day was to be on a Saturday morning. We were all looking very forward to it. It was going to be the first time that we were going to be able to see friends and family since we had started basics. As the time drew closer, everybody got more and more excited. And on the morning of the day, I think it's the most excited I've ever seen any of my friends in the dormitory. Just before the time, all of us knew that whoever we were going to meet was actually already in the base and at the parade field. We mustered outside our dormitory, formed up into our squad, and marched off to the parade ground. On arriving at the parade ground, we were stood at ease, and when everybody was there, they then told the parents that they could come and look for us. It was a strange feeling standing on the parade ground, being able to see the people that you knew, and you wanted to put up your hand and shout at them, but there was nothing you were allowed to do. They had to come find you. Eventually, my parents arrived and found me after much wandering around. We then proceeded off the parade ground and I started showing them around the base. The first place we went to was up to the dormitories. Showed them basically where I lived, what living in a dormitory with 16 other people entailed. They were quite amused to see that their son was so neat and tidy. They'd never known him to be that neat and tidy before, I suppose. There was much interest in how our cuss was laid out and why it was so stark and everything was so uniform and neat and tidy. They were quite amused with that. I then proceeded to show them around the base. I took them down to the yacht club. I then proceeded to show them all the other places around the base, the canteen where we ate every day, the chapel. We proceeded around to the canteen. At the canteen, just outside the canteen, Satfi had a sale on with all sorts of sporting wear, and the prices were very good, and I think there were a lot of people buying. It was quite a good thing to have there. We were informed that we were not allowed to leave the base until 2 o'clock. So we waited until then, just generally chatting. A lot of the other people went and had briars on the beaches. We were given permission to go to basically any of the beaches and have briars. And at about 2 o'clock, we were allowed to leave. We were only permitted to stay in the Saldanha Vredenburg area, so most of us headed off into Longabon or wherever close by, just to enjoy an evening out, our first evening out since the beginning of basics. And I think it was a great joy just to see our loved ones again, for the first time in, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks.
Gedurende basis almal kans gekry om skietbaan toe te gaan. In die begin was daar manne wat bietjie vreesbevange was en snaaks dinge gedink het. Hulle gedink hulle gaan agteroorval as hulle die snelle trek of dat iemand hulle so per ongeluk sou raak skiet. Man het ons geweet dat die instrukteur die GI op die oomblik toe ons na die skietbaan gaan siek gevoel het. Ons het ons geweldrig geken, maar nog steeds was ons vreesbevange. Ons het gehoop dat ons geen foto sou maak nie. Hulle moes aan ons duidelik wat ons moes doen. Ons moet maak as daar iets verkeerd gaan. Met jou geweer. Dan moet jy jou hand lig en wag tot die instrukteur tot by jou kom. Jy moet jou geweer altyd op die skietpunt gerig hou. Hulle is baie streng op die reëls. Daar word nie rondgespeel met die reëls as dit kom by die skietbaan nie. Daar was 'n groepie wat die magasyn gelei het. Die magasyne was gelei met 10 rondes elk vir verskillende applikasies. Die eerste applikasie wat ons gehad het was groep 1. Dit was nou die eerste keer wat jy skiet om te kyk of jy die teken ooit kan raak skiet. Partyman het seker die teken nooit geraak nie, maar almal het probeer. Die eerste kans wat ek gehad het om te skiet, het ek myself verbeel die geweer gaan my na onder se boog gooi. Die eerste posisie wat ons ingeneem het om te skiet was die leë posisie. Dit was groepering. Ek weet nie waar ek hom getref het nie, maar ek dink ek het hom getref. En baie van die ander manne het die teken getref. Maar wens so baie foute nie. Net 'n paar manne wat 'n bietjie van hulle drill vergeet het. Daar was een wat 'n groot fout gemaak het en gevier het voordat hulle hom beveel het om te vuur. En hy moes op en af draf. Dit is baie gevaarlik om die bevele te veronagsaam. Die instrukteur wat die bevele gegee het was Bosman Sullivan. Hy is 'n baie goeie geweerinstrukteur. En hy het ook vir ons verduidelik wanneer ons moet skiet en hoe ons moet skiet. Daar was nou wel die wat bietjie maar en klein was en as hulle geskiet het in die leë posisie, dan beweeg hulle agtertoe. Maar dit was nie 'n probleem nie. Daar was altyd 'n instrukteur wat agter sy voete gestaan het om hom in die posisie te hou. Die manne het met die eerste koelslag nie so goed gevaar nie, maar het daarom die teken getref. Die teken was vol gate geskiet en daar was manne in die skietgat wat die teken moes hanteer. Die eerste keer was dit die groepering. Na groepering moes hulle die gate toeplak. Na groepering het ons applikasie geskiet. Dit was om te zien of ons werkelijk kon skiet. 10 rondes per applicatie in jou eie tyd. In die applicasie het dit baie goed te gaan en ek dink nie daar was iemand wat eintlik 'n fout gemaak het nie. Met elke skietoefening het dit beter gegaan. Want die manne het daaraan gewoond geraak om voor hom te kyk en nie in die ronde te draai nie. Daar was 'n insident waar die manne vergeet het om die vlag te sak nadat die skietspan klaar geskiet het. Elke keer wanneer die skietspan skiet, dan word die rooi vlag gehys vir enige persoon wat die skietwel wil binnekom om vir hom te sê dat daar persone op die skietbaan besig is om te skiet. Daar was dadelik 'n persoon aangestel om die vlag te sak of te hys. Die ou was baie senuweeagtig, soveel so dat hy nie kon skiet nie. Hy het gesê dat hy nie lekker voel nie en hy is toegelaat om nie te skiet nie. Die skietbaansosiasie dink ek is die beste ding van die basis. Agterna kon ons sien dat ons dit geniet het. Dit geniet het om die teken uitmekaar te skiet en vir die manne wat onder in die skietgat was om die gate toe te plak. Die hele situasie was van die beste geweest want daar was niemand wat van die skietbaan afgekom het wat ontevrede was met instrukteurs nie. Die instrukteurs het hulle werk goed gedoen, soos hulle maar altyd doen. Maar hulle het die reëls strenger toegepas. En dit is wat ek persoonlik dink behoort te gebeur by 'n skietbaan. Daar was nou wel 'n paar manne wat op ander manne se teken geskiet het, maar ons het nogtans die dag geniet.
In one of our classes, parade ground work, getting up, drilling up to standard. And if we don't drill smartly and properly, then we end up running all over the place. Because if there's another class on the parade ground with us, it becomes a tussle between them to see who's got the best class. So if one of the guys make a mess in the drilling, we all end up running. It's like a big competition between all the AIs to see who's got the best division. During that time, our leading seaman is normally with us, just watching. Our instructor, we've got an able seaman and a leading seaman, able seaman Stelik and leading seaman Knights. It's actually I don't know if the people realized who takes which dormitories, but they actually hooked up a good pair between able seaman Stelik and leading seaman Knights. Able seaman Stelik is like the enforcer of all the rules. He makes you suffer, and leading seaman Knights is like the organizer. While when we write our exams, our basic exams, leading seaman Knights, he just organized like extra time to study for us so we can actually pass our exams. And actually, our instructors were a dormitory in the beginning. Able seaman Stelik we didn't really picture him as a good guy, and we didn't really like him. But now we've realized that what teamwork's all about. We actually see his point in making us suffer. So the guys all now admire him for what he's done and all that. Our leading seaman Knights, I'd say, is our dormitory thinks our assistant instructor and our leading seaman are probably the best instructors in the whole base. So we were actually lucky and happy to get those instructors as our basic instructors.
Our first sight of the parade ground wasn't very reassuring, but then the parade ground isn't normally very reassuring. We started off with our PO on the parade ground in overalls. Now, you get issued with overalls when you get there because you only get your uniform after a while. And our first time with the PO wasn't very friendly, you could put it that way. The PO was he was very strict on us, and our marching wasn't very up to standard. So we used to do things like running around the parade ground, running around cannons, marching up and down at top speed, doing what POs normally do to roofs. And then as time went on in the parade ground, as our marching got up to standard and our relationship with our PO got a little bit better, we found that the parade ground could actually be a bit of a outlet for all the pressure you get from all running around. Towards the end, we got very friendly with our peer. He was very understanding, and he understood our needs and our problems, and you could say he was like one of us.
The normal day of the parade ground, after lunch, our AB comes and tells us to muster outside. We form a squad. Okay, we double down. Most of the time we spend mark timing on one spot for quite a long time, and it really wears you out. You'll start off with all the orders. In the beginning of the basics, you don't really know what's going on, and the mistakes, you won't believe it. Okay, then you temper them. It wasn't so bad. Like, you could tolerate your mistakes, obviously, because you hadn't been here for long. And okay, then let me say halfway through basics, then he actually expects you to like think what you're doing. We used to sit on the side during smoke breaks and watch the PF class. It was Edward's division, and these guys were really parade. And the PFs came out 2 weeks before we did. They were really parade. And Albert said this, you guys will never look like that. He said, you're too moose, and that means you're too untidy, and you don't really know what to do. Everything went well until we came to one day when the GR said, okay, we're going to have inter-class marching. And we thought, oh no. What happened is we drew 59 points. It was between Bierman, De Ruyter, and Edwards. And then the next Monday, this was on the Friday, the next Monday we had to march it out. And funny enough, we won. And Abel Seaman and up here were really happy about it. And there wasn't really much to say after that. It was the next day, the actual next day was treated the same.
The parade ground is a lesson. It's drilling and marching. We go there every day for about approximately 2 to 3 hours, depending on the standard of the drill. In the beginning, it's all the time you go to the parade ground, and in the beginning the moves, you got to get used to it. And eventually the drilling is automatic. Once a command is given, you hardly think about it. You know exactly what to do. And once your drilling starts improving, it improves quickly. And eventually you're not spending as much time on the parade ground as you first started spending. When we're on the parade ground, we're drilled both by our AB and our PO, but mostly by the AD. And when we make mistakes, we get sent running somewhere so that next time we won't make the same mistake. And as you're running, you sort out the problems in the squad, and that's how you just improve the general standard of the drilling. Our AB is he's the assistant instructor. He takes us for most of the drilling because the PO does other work while we're doing the drill on the parade ground. He's the one that you learn to hate the most because he's forever sending you running for petty little reasons. But eventually you learn that if you didn't do that, the standard of drilling would never have been what it is.
Our basic PT started at 3:30 every afternoon. We would run down to the field, and our PT instructors were waiting for us. We started off with mark times. We weren't allowed to stand still for 1 second. You'd like to stand on top of the staircase and watch us from the top, and heaven help the person that stood still. And he would say, right, on your backs down, and it would be counting from 1 to 10, and if he found the person that wasn't obeying his orders, we'd go back to the previous number, and then he'd make us run around the soccer posts, which should be in a time limit of about 35 seconds, which is quite a distance to run, especially when you're unfit and you've only been there for about a week or two. And then he'd make you run back and mark time again, and by this time you're really out of breath, and he'll say, right, on his stomachs down, and then you had to do push-ups, which were more or less about 20. Then you'd say, right, sit and stand up. Then you do another 10 leg raises. Then you'll say, right, on your back's down. Then you'll do about 30 sit-ups. And you'll say, right, that wasn't quick enough, round the circle pads. And so it went on. And after the second week, things started getting better. Even for myself, I was pretty fat and unhealthy when I got to Saldanha. And I managed to lose quite a bit of weight. And it was pretty tough in the beginning, but everybody stuck together. We pushed through to the end. And once you're doing it, it's amazing where the spirit comes from. And it you really want to go out there and fulfill the whole thing. And the next time it's going to be tougher. And it really breaks you down at the end of the day. The next week's the same thing, and you're off and you're going for it again.
The boxing match included a lot of guys who had just sort of nominated by their dorms, guys who had never boxed before. Some guys had boxed before. It was inter-dorm, so a lot of the PF and CF guys were boxing against each other, and there's a lot of excitement, a lot of tension, a lot of upsets, and it was great fun. For some guys, it was quite painful, I presume. I don't know. Some of the guys came off second best, losing a few teeth, and some guys got a bit bloody. And it was all in the game of boxing, though, all in the sport. And it all boiled down to the last man being the winner, and there were different categories, so it lasted quite a while. It started off on the Monday, and the guys sort of had a few bouts to get to the finals. So it sort of narrowed it down from, I think, about 60 boxes to a total of 10 left over. And on the final night, it was a lot of great excitement. It was like a normal boxing match. We had ring seats. Everything was set out nice and nicely. And a lot of the guys that made it to the finals weren't exactly boxers. I don't think many of the guys were boxers, and it was quite funny. A lot of it, I don't know, it was different. The few days before the finals, the boxers were quite hyped up. They'd been practicing a bit and being coached by their friends in their dormitories, by their able seamen, their instructors, and they were out there to win. All the dormitories, or a lot of the keen guys, were there to watch the fight, and everyone was very excited at the finals. And it was fun. It was very funny at the time, very excited. A friend of mine was a coach of one of the chaps. He was sitting next to me during the bantamweight fight, and he was really happy when his buddy won, and quite chuffed with himself with having coached him. All the guys enjoyed it though. It was great fun.
Boxing, what an experience. It was the worst experience of my lifetime. It was a boxing competition from all the divisions aboard, and they said, we are going to nominate people to box. So suddenly I heard my name being called out, so I just stood up. I thought, yeah, boxing, I'll have a go at it. I didn't know what it was about. So I volunteered and I went for the medical for the boxing, and everything was going fine. But then the night of the boxing came. I was very nervous. I've never boxed or done anything like that in my life before. So first, that afternoon, the lightweight boxers fought. It was quite funny seeing these little guys jumping around in this square ring, the boxing ring, knocking each other as hard as they could. As they hit the person, they fall down on their backs themselves. Anyway, the fights were coming closer to my fight, and I started getting nervous. And my friends have been teaching me the whole day how to
protect my face, and how to punch and how to jab. I said I'd try my best, so I went in for it. And while I was warming up, they were busy trying to psych me up, so I'd do well. I was boxing against a friend of mine in Dean. Anyway, the night came. It was my turn to go up. I went up there and I said, okay, I'll bounce around and I'll just jab now and again. So I went on, I bounced around, I gave a few jabs, he hit me a few times. And I felt I was dancing around too long and my friend said, hit him. And I tried to hit the side, but my fist never got there. I saw my instructor in his eyes looking at me. So I just went whoos and I tried to hit this guy. But whenever I swung for him, he ducked and I missed and I spun around and he fell on my back. And then he hit me on the side of my head and I fell flat on my back. And I stood up and I shook my head and I said, no, okay, I'll fight. And then when he hit me on my nose, I felt as though my nose exploded. And blood was coming out of my nose, so the ref said, no, that's it. A few minutes later I was sitting there and I didn't know what was happening anymore.
The Guard of Honor was chosen from SS Saldanha. It was a 96-man Guard of Honor, which were mainly chosen to take part in the South African Naval Day. The Navy Day, which this ceremony was performed at, had a few colourful displays, especially an amazing air attack onto the minesweepers, which was very colourful and a lot of gunnery display work and so on. All the ships were open during the Navy Day. Parents and spectators could go around and look at the ships and see what Navy's really like. The 96-man Guard of Honor performed Sunset. It's a ceremony when the South African flag is taken down, and they basically did a slow march around, saluting and so on. The year before, in 1988, at South African Navy Day, they were estimated at 30,000 spectators, although this year not quite so many turned up. It was quite electrifying to find so many people standing around you and watching you perform a parade such as the sunset ceremony, which is really a fantastic ceremony. It's very colourful. A lot of fantastic maneuvers, military maneuvers get carried out during this parade, and it's actually quite electrifying to be involved in this parade, in this ceremony, because it has a lot of meaning. It's a lot of tradition behind it, and it's not only to be in the Guard, but also to be performing something as colourful and that people really watch and talk about all the time about this parade. And I must say it was very impressive from what I heard from the people standing on the side. For myself, I was involved in it, so I could only see the sections in front of me, which to me were very impressive. And all I can say is it was fantastic to be there. There were a lot of people. I can't actually say how many people were there, but all I know is that it was a lot. And when you can see out of the corner of your eye and see all the people standing around and clapping and really enjoying the ceremony, it's really something else.
STO's rounds, the STO first of all is a senior training officer, who is Commander Weller, and everybody is fairly terrified of these rounds. The STO's rounds, usually our inspection goes as follows. In the morning at 7 o'clock, we stand ready for inspection. And the evening before, of course, we do preparation for this inspection, cleaning the floor, polishing, sweeping out behind your cupboards, pulling your cupboards away from the walls, you know, washing windows, brassoing window catches and things like that. And the next morning you stand ready for inspection, and this inspection is really basic. Your clothes have to be neat, your shirts all have to be in line, and things like that. This is all, I would say, preparation for STO's rounds and for captain's round or EXO's rounds, whichever. Well, finally it came to EXO's rounds, and then we were to prepare for cleaning up and everything for the rounds. This was the night before again. Well, we split ourselves into groups, you know. Some guys had to clean their heads, which is toilets, and a certain section had to clean windows, a certain section of the guys had to polish the floor, sweep out and dust off and all that type of thing. And we put quite a lot of effort into it. And we work until that, up to about 10:30 in the evenings on the dormitory, that specific evening. And the next morning we were up at 1 o'clock again. Everybody had a shower. After everybody showered, the heads get cleaned again. And we jump back into the dormitory, making sure that everything is 100%, you know, as they expect it to be. So we are in a fairly old dormitory, so it's difficult to keep the dust under control. And this is a major problem in our mess deck. And well, the outside area as well, has to be kept clean. Like every little paper, all dirt and things has to be picked up. Drains unblocked and water all washed away, swept away. And that is the immediate area around our dormitory. And for each dormitory, the same applies.
Okay, we found out about the inspection about that Wednesday. And so the Thursday, we started getting the dorm ready. We took out everything. We took all the furniture and that out of the dorm, and we started polishing. That was a Thursday afternoon. And we stayed up the whole night polishing the deck and making our beds. We never slept in our beds that night because it had to really be fixed up and everything had to be squared down. And then we couldn't stop shining the deck, because if one guy just walked down the deck, he'd leave his footprints and everyone would scream at him. And so eventually we walked on taxis. This is like little pieces of material that we'd walk on, so as to shine the deck and not get our footprints on it.
And then the next day came, and we were standing by for rounds from about 6:30 in the morning. We were standing by for rounds, and we came fairly late in the afternoon. And we just all got a shock to see the STO walking in. We expected only him and maybe 2 people with him, but there were approximately about 5 people with him. You know, 1 ensign, 2 warrant officers, and a chief petty officer. They did the rounds, and they just started moving cupboards away from the wall, checking for dust with their torches, you know. And everybody's got the trommels. We've all got trommels here, and everybody sort of just jammed the extra baggage they had into the trommel, you know. It was quite a bit untidy there. And as they went past, we said, right, open your trommels. And this way everybody got a shock. You could see the shock on the guys' faces here. And well, they started unpacking their trommels, and then the STO looked into the trommels, and well, I'm sure he got a shock to see what's in there himself. And all the stuff just jammed into there. And while it lasted, it was quite, I can say, nerve-wracking, you know, to stand this inspection.
And the ensign was started at the bottom of the dormitory, and he was picking off the white towels at the bottom of the bed. And we all showed him our white towels, and some of the white towels were dirty, and we got into trouble for that. But the majority of them, they all had rust marks on from the bottom of the bed, and he was most upset about this. Then he stands and he says to you, what is this? You just say, it's a rust stain, and he just walks off. A few guys, the main problem was dirty kit.
Almal was baie senuweeagtig op ons nerves geweest. Ons het nie geweet wat om te verwag nie. toe die eerste jaar, toe hulle command hulle instap, te begin met die inspeksie, en die eerste kas wat hulle gekry het, wat hulle beginnen moet, was 'n flop gewees in die kas. Daar was, hemde was hier gestryk gewees, die hemde was vuil gewees. Toe ek was in die middel gewees van die dom, het ek sommer geweet, nou is ons weer in die moeilikheid. Want som ouens, skoene was ook hier onder gepolies gewees hier. Daar is hier aanvaarbaar vir inspeksie nie. So het hulle afgekom in die alleyway, tot hulle by my kas gekom het. Toe hulle die kas oopmaak, was ek baie op my nerves gewees. Ek het maar net gestaan, die eens het my kas inspek, het my gevra, hoe koos my hemd vuil, my kolle vuil. Ek nog gedink kan of om 'n kaart skiet of so, of miskien nou sê, toe ek my taai om die kolle gesit het, maar hy het gesê, hulle vat die daai nie. Die hemd was uit die kas uitgegooi. My maat se skoene was hier op polies gewees hier, was vir wekelaars op polies. Eens net vir hom gesê, as nog sand in die skoene. Hulle het hom gevra of hy 'n small parade ground in Dom wou bou. En so het het aangegaan.
And then when he left, our whole dorm thought, okay, well, that's it. We've done very badly in it. And when we actually found out that we came second out of all the dorms, and our division, Edward, came first, we couldn't believe it. And neither could our instructors. They were so surprised that it actually boggled them as well, how well we did. So we were actually impressed with our performance on the East Terrace round.
This year for Basics 89, I think it was one of the largest intakes we had. There was plus minus 200 PF members and about 400 CF members. So whenever there was some huge undertaking to be done, like the West Coast Tour and the Sailing Regatta, they had to actually be split up. And like, for example, when the PFs went on their West Coast Tour, the CFs did the Sailing Regatta. And then the next week, the CFs went on the West Coast Tour, the PFs did the Sailing Regatta. And the results from the two sailing regattas were actually compared to find out who the winner was overall. The big walk took place over Saturday and Sunday. The stuff we took we took our water bottles, which we had to have filled with water. Then we went in blues with boots and putties. The stuff we put into our kit bags, some of us put shaving kit in, toothbrush, toothpaste, towels, maybe a pair of shorts and shirts to walk around in. We had a ground sheet with us and a sleeping bag which we were issued with. Anyway, we started off, we got on the buses at about 5 o'clock that morning, and we travelled to the area we were supposed to start from, and we started there, I think it must have been about 5:30 in the morning. We started, and everything was semi-misty, but it was about clear as well. Certain areas were quite clear. We thought it was going to be quite a nice day, but then as the sun started coming up, everything turned to mist. You could see only maybe about 10 meters in front of you, and we were walking through the mist, and so you couldn't really see anything. Most of the route was along the beach front, and we were walking in sand, and with boots walking in sand, it gets very tiring. When we got to the beach, the long open stretch of beachfront, there were a few guys in front that were setting the pace, and they were actually running, and like we were told to keep the whole column close together, and eventually the column was stretched over a distance of about 1 kilometer. Then we reached Paternoster. We switched off of the beachfront onto a gravel road, and as we got inland a bit, so the mist disappeared, and it actually became very hot walking in the sun. Everybody was sweating, changing from suddenly a cool, misty day to a very hot day. The route that we walked was very scenic. There were a lot of things to see, though, even though quite a bit of the scene was repeated, but you didn't really notice it because you were walking. We were walking very fast, so most of the guys, they just they had this kit on their back, and they walked to try and keep up with the front. So you didn't really see much of the scene, except maybe when you stopped to have a rest. Eventually we reached the point where we were to break camp. It was just after the nature reserve. We broke camp there. We stopped there, we had our bag lunch, which was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And we all started preparing our sleeping area we're going to sleep in. Some of the guys, they went into the bushes, and they made tents inside the bushes, putting their ground sheet over the top of the bush and crawling inside with their sleeping bag. Others just dug holes into the ground and then put their ground sheet over the top of the hole and slid their sleeping bag inside. There were all different arrangements of how everybody thought that their sleeping area was going to be the best and the most resistant to the elements. When it came to about supper time, we all went to have supper. We took our stainless steel plates, which we call varkpanna. We had supper. The supper was dished out. It was a large supper, and we had to all clean our own plates ourselves, which is unusual because at base they go into a machine, and the machine cleans them for us. And the peer was standing there, and he was checking every single plate that came out to make sure it was clean and there was nothing wrong with it. Once it reached about 8 o'clock and the mist started rolling in, that you could hardly see your hand in front of your face. We only got out of bed about 6:30 that morning, and we woke up and the mist was still very heavy, and actually guys had pools of water had collected on top of their ground sheets where they had been sleeping, where hollows had formed, and they were quite amazed actually that the water didn't fill in around them, because there was a bit of rain that night as well. The one PO said that the temperature was going to drop to 12 degrees that night, so everybody was trying to keep warm and everything. But anyway, we woke up in the morning, some of us shaved and brushed our teeth, went for breakfast. We had breakfast, and because this was now Sunday morning, we had a church parade. One seaman, he read and said a prayer, and we all formed into our different squads, and we were off again. We started our march. We carried on from where we'd slept. Now we were working our way back to base. Overall, it was an experience. Some of the guys wished they could have done it again. Others said they'd never do it in their life again.
Phosphate. 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 Phosphate.
One Saturday morning, they held a regatta for us. It was only for the CF mutts. The PF mutts went on their West Coast tour. The regatta was both a sailing regatta and a pulling regatta. The pulling was held on the Saturday morning and the sailing started on the Saturday afternoon. We again pulled on the Sunday morning and sailed on the Sunday afternoon, although Sunday afternoon was not very good wind-wise, and eventually they abandoned sailing. The pulling was quite interesting because obviously it's a test of strength between dormitories or between divisions, and teams were assembled from the various divisions and put into whalers and cutters and towed out to the start line by a Namakura. From the start line, they were then to row back to a finish line which was at the yacht club. The start line was quite a long way away, and from the jetty we couldn't really see it. The only part of the race that we could see was the very end, and that was the only time that we could really cheer our teams on. The racing was very close at the best of times, and on one occasion two boats came together just after the start and had to be restarted, and the guys were very keen to do their best, obviously. All in all, I think it was a great show of strength, and I believe Walter's division came out on top with the rowing. Exercise rounds were held on a Friday morning. We were told to prepare, be ready for 6:30 Friday morning. The dormitory stayed up until close to midnight preparing for exercise rounds. The preparation that we did, we had a little bit of practice at because we had prepared for STO's rounds before. And we were expecting the same class of inspection on the Friday morning.
Die vorige aand begin almal met hulle persoonlike goed stryk en was en al die klere was, omdat ons nie die vorige inspeksie het ons nie al ons klere gewas nie en dit was baie vuil hemde geweest. En hy het gesê ons moet ons klere mooi skoon hê, al die wit hemde se kraas skoon hê. En ons hard gewerk, die vloere uitgevee seker 20-30 keer. En die aand laat gaan slaap so 1 uur. En die volgende staan almal 3 uur op, maak hulle beddens soos 4 keer boksies op. En vee die vloer weer eens so 5 keer uit. Vee die mure skoon, vee die dakke skoon, draai die ligte uit, palies onder die ligte. En lig jy beddens se pote op en pak jou trommel reg. En almal het seker omtrent 'n halfuur gevat in hulle kaste. Volgende oggend, want die vorige aand het hulle in elk geval ook in hulle kaste gewerk. En kaste het perfek gelyk. Alles in lyn, alles perfek afgeskoei. En sigaretboksies binne in die kouse gesit. En toe ons nadat ons met ons persoonlike goed laas het almal begin werk in die dormitory self. En toe buite om al die goed gemors buite opgetel. Ons het die vloer buite gewas, afgespoel, mure afgespoel. En toe na die toilette gegaan, die het vloere gewas, daar so wasbakke gewas, die krane gebraas, so die toilette skoon gemaak, die mure afgevee. En al die water opgedroog en weer eens alles die vloere skoon gemaak en dan weer die koppies op die beddens uitgepak, mes en vorke en alles boeke waar ons leer, alles perfek af in 'n vierkant gepak. Toe ons gewere uitgehaal, gewere skoon gemaak, alles skoon gemaak, al die rifle parts en moving parts uitgehaal, op die bed neergesit, alles perfek in lyn. En kussing gestryk, die beddens perfek gestryk, alles perfek.
It was then time to go to breakfast, come back from breakfast and do the final touch-ups. By 6:30 the dormitory was ready. Our instructor arrived. He was quite pleased with what we had done. PO called us to attention and we knew the inspection was about to take place. He walked inside accompanied by 3 other officers, Commander Weller, Chief Thompson and Warren Broom. He then proceeded to inspect most of the things that we had done. Dust, he was looking for dust. He had us open our cusses. He did random checks on anything he thought needed checking. On my personal case, he checked shoes only, didn't bother to check anything else. As he went down the dormitory, he was picking a different thing out of every case, just having a look at it. The inspection didn't last very long. He was out of the dormitory probably in under 5 minutes. Walked outside, had a look in the dustbin and wasn't very pleased. The person who'd been on dustbin duty hadn't done the best of jobs. His comment on our dormitory was that it was very good, and our PO and our able seamen were quite pleased with us and the effort that we had put in to the inspection. We were also pleased with ourselves that we had actually been commended on our inspection.
The PF sailing regatta was held on that Thursday morning. We got down to the jetty at about 7:30 in the morning, and it was all misty and very cold, and quite a few of the guys were staying around shivering. They started racing the Saldanhas and cutters, and there was quite a bit of fun in that. The wind was not too hard at the time, and towards near in the afternoon the wind started picking up, and quite a few of the guys coming back out of the Saldanhas. They were sopping wet, the clothes were absolutely drenched, and they had to go back up to base, get changed and everything, because the wind was very cold that afternoon and they didn't want to risk getting colds and pneumonia and everything. There was actually 1 or 2 guys who even managed to fall into the water working with the boats. And overall, the guys who weren't doing sailing or pulling at the time, those who were studying for the exams coming up, the majority were all they had somehow managed to get hold of pieces of wire and hooks and bits of string, and were busy fishing off the bank. But overall, when it came for us to return, the majority of us, we enjoyed what had happened that morning, and so I actually wished we could have done it again.
Ons het die Saterdagoggend 4 uur opgestaan. Almal was nogal opgewonde oor die Weskustoer wat voorlê. Ons was 'n bietjie benoud want ons het nie geweet hoe dit gaan wees. Gaan dit swaar wees? Gaan dit diep sand en goeter? Ons het baie stories al gehoor van vorige Weskustoere. In die begin was die pad redelik hard geweest en ons het nie gedink dit sal so vreeslik wees nie. Maar na so omtrent 'n halfuur het ons begin om langs die kus te loop op die sand, en dis daar waar dinge 'n bietjie begin verander het. Wat die toneel betref, dit was ontsettend mooi geweest, maar jy wil net daar gekom het op jou volgende punt waar jy moes wees, waar jy kon rus, maar as jy nou moet terugdink aan, dit was, jy onthou al die lekker dinge en die mooi dinge en die beste dinge wat jy gedoen het. En toe het ons uitgekamp, ek weet nie nou presies wat die plek se naam is nie, Sandbaai. Toe ons daar kom was almal regtig waar baie moe geweest, en ons het nadat almal hulle goed uitgepak het en ouens het tente probeer maak van die grondseile en gate gegrawe, en toe het ons tipe van dit was so 4 uur se kant omtrent geweest, en toe het ons aandete gehad en almal het redelik vroeg gaan slaap. En die toneel toe ons gaan slaap het was ongelooflik geweest. Jy het gelê in jou slaapsak, uitgekyk na die see, na die branders, dit was vol maan geweest, dit was ongelooflik smaak geweest. En toe ons weer wakker word die volgende oggend omtrent 7 uur se kant, 7:30, toe moes ons opgestaan het en ons goeders weer gepak het, jou grondseil, jou slaapsak, jou jas wat hy saamgevat het. En ons was allemaal redelijk uitgerus, want ons het nogal redelijk lang gekry om te slaap. En die nacht self dit was nie koud geweest nie, ons het lekker geslaap. En jy was redelijk styf geweest en bietjie moedeloos geweest vir die pad wat voor lê. Maar toch was jy opgewonde, want jy het geweet dat die toneel langs die Weskus is baie mooi.
To those people who, through my basic training, I grew to know very well, and a lot of them who became very good friends, which I didn't actually think would happen during basic training. Always thought your friends from outside would be your true friends, but a lot of your friends are very, very good people, and they'll help you any way they can. And to those people, I would like to say thank you very much. You helped me through it, and maybe I helped you with something, but we both owe it to each other.
I'd just like to say that for those people who have been in my class, I pray that they'll do the best of their ability and will thoroughly enjoy the work they're going to be doing and studying and everything, that they will enjoy whatever their mustering is and will go into it with good hearts and open minds and enjoy every moment of it, because in the time will always go fast.
To those people in the future who will be arriving, all I can say is, once you get your first bait, take it day by day and have a positive attitude. Make the most of it. Don't look back on what's happened, the bad things, the things you've done wrong, maybe the times you've been shouted at, things like that. I wish you all the best for the future, and I hope it goes well. First bait.
Listen there! There! There!
Now let us pray.
LA Derby, Veerman 2. Silverman familie trofee vir die naastbeste seeman AM de Tooi, Veerman 3. Die admiraal de Ruiter trofee, geskenk deur meneer J.P. Lou, seeman wat die meeste punte op kursus behaal het, seeman J.J. Koetse, Veerman 2. Die marinierstrofee vir die flinkste seeman, seeman G.B. McGregor, 10-3. Seeman wat die hoogste punt op die skietbaan aangeteken het, seeman AP Tolier, Edward Willie. John Bart trofee, gekend deur die beide meneer John Bart en Langemarda, vir die beste praktiese seeman, seeman G. Staat. Thompson Cup for the best sportsman, seaman R. Clark, Veerman 3. Die marinierstrofee, geskenk deur die eerste mariniersklas van 1952, vir die beste klas op die paradegrond, de Ruiter 2. The Dromedaris Trophy, donated by Southern Sea Fishing Enterprise for elite geometry, Edward 3, Seaman Gillette, legit selected on their behalf. SAS Saldanha natuurbewaringstrofee vir die divisie wat die meeste gedoen het vir natuurbewaring, gaan aan de Ruiter divisie, seeman Stein ontvang dit namens de Ruiter divisie. The prize for the most outstanding, dedicated and motivated instructor, Petty Officer Naidu. Die Pastoremeers Diaskult vir die originele doeltreffendheid aan Veerman divisie ontvang deur adjudant officier terug.
Wel manne, daar is dit nou alles verby. Ek is seker die meeste van julle kan met aangename herinneringe terugkyk na julle basiese opleidingsperiode. Na aanvanklike vrese of bedenkings wat julle maar gehad het. Onthou wat ek aan die begin van die kursus gesê het. 'n Positiewe gesindheid bly die sleutel tot 'n gelukkige en 'n suksesvolle dienspligperiode. I realize that your basic training period in particular was disrupted by several outside activities which placed you under extra pressure, like parades, etc. However, I'm happy to say that you did the Navy proud in all these activities, and I thank you for that. And now I wish you all the best for the remainder of your national service and for your future civilian careers. Be proud to serve your Navy and be proud to serve your country.